Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the third call of Humanitarian Structured Projects. One of the major deterrents for, and this is kind of, it's new territory for many people, and there's a reason for that, because others have been so tainted through the years on these different applications that they would counteract the goodness in the execution of projects. So this is important from the standpoint that that's why the people who are the stewards of the wealth will be carrying out a lot of these projects. Obviously, there's people who have had some kind of project experience or exposure through the years. Not many, but some. Understand it's an emotional process. You can't do this through the mind, through the ego mind. It's been the downfall for years when these humanitarian projects were getting funded and the money was stolen, and the people never, received any benefits. So the emotionality of this, the whole execution, carrying it out, is about how you feel about it. Number one. And to reflect with yourself on your direction and the absolute magnitude of the commitment that you're making for the rest of the civilization. No matter what the project is. You could have a community small project, you can have a medium project, that this is, and it's really, and here's where the threshold is, it's on the egoic energy, and we all deal with it. Every one of us do. From different applications, or so to speak. So it's to be mindful of the ego and where it pulls you, in the directions it pulls you in, because it can burn you out real quick. Okay? And that's why I've been talking about no expectations and no attachments. This is an unorthodox compared to the regular flow on this planet, the way it's been in the Draco system for eons. So it's the process is basically you embrace the first project. Trying to start many projects all at once, unless you've had years of experience, and I'll tell you one thing, people who have successfully carried out certain projects will tell you, take one and launch one, and then learn from that one in the different avenues and everything. Because unless you have a really close launch team, people that you can interact with, people that they can interact with you, everybody's on the same page, and the egos are in check. I'm not saying they've been omitted, I'm just saying they're in check. And everybody's working together. Everybody's got different strengths and weaknesses, and by compiling the launch team, it's kind of a mini mastermind group. Everybody's got different skill sets and abilities. Other people will complement each other. So people will complement each other. And if you work with that synergistically without the ego getting involved to the extent where it takes everything over, and then you've got a mess. So it's like on our end with the Celestial Chamber, when we talk about our group, our team, our launch team, the egos have to be left at the door. We'll have a sign we'll have that sign everywhere. Egos must take a nap. Period. So, in the conference room, there'll be a sign on that door. Leave your egos outside the door. We may even have an ego box where they can consciously just drop it in there for the time being. So, it's just visualization and telling you, I've seen it, and I'm sure some of you have. When the egos get out of control, everything goes haywire. You got, the ego's pushing somebody that wants to do this and be in charge of this and take over this and do this and do this and do this. And, I use the analogy, you put 6 executive chefs, all highly noted, and held in high regards and credibility, in one executive kitchen. You've got a real mess on your hands. So, that's number one, is the checking the ego. Yours and your launch team. That discussion should be number one priority to begin with. And that should be checkmated. That ego should be checkmated for the most part before you begin to physically launch your project. Now, you don't know, most of us don't know what the parameters are. What you're going to structure. What obstacles are you going to be faced with? Different, the old Draco structures are melting away, but they're still going to be around for a bit. So you're looking at the avenue of it by saying, well, okay, so you have to have your I's dotted, your T's crossed. Period. And one of the biggest assets that you'll carry through on your project will be you don't have any expectations and you don't have any attachments. And that sounds a little strange, but it works. It works very well because it keeps you unencumbered emotionally. See? It's like people ask me all the time, when will the first prototype be available? 6 months. Is that an expectation? Nah. It's 6 months. And everybody will get together. Things have been done in shorter periods of time, believe me. Another thing that you won't be used to, if you choose to incorporate this, picture training. Picture training. Okay? Narrative of pictures. Describing to your launch team, getting them interactive. You take your project, you turn it into a picture. And you really can't do it like a stick picture because impact won't be there as much as it will in visualization and what the picture represents. So you leave for the most part, you leave the picture to the viewers, and then you begin to discuss it, and it expands. It will automatically expand. Why are we teaching in pictures? Now, you can use that. We, with our team, will be using picture description, picture training, period. And so that's up to you if you want to use it or you just want to do conventional. I'm just putting that out there. So from the picture standpoint is that why pictures? Why not equations, fractions, quantum physics, and all that stuff? Well, look where it's gotten us. Too far. And how was it designed? It was designed in Draco educational structure. So keeps most of us chasing our tails with a couple of breakthroughs here and there. Period. So pictures exercise imagination. That's the whole point. Pictures exercise the imagination. That's when the creative juices really begin to flow. So when you get a group, your launch team, all with different abilities, strengths, and weaknesses, and they start focusing on the picture, it'll bring their imaginations front and center. And then things will really start to cook. Now, it's not really been used much on this planet, just in small instances, but the results have been absolutely spectacular. The acceleration imagination of the project, the finiteness, the clarity, the end result, absolutely far surpass anything that mankind has done before. So when you look at the picture, you generate, the imagination, and imagination is always front and center. So things will always they'll start developing. And then we teach people how to move energy into form. By using the pictures, they begin to move energy into form. So then their joy kicks in on creating whatever it is the project is about. So when you look at a picture and you look at words, what's more impactful? Is the picture more impactful, or is the words? It's the picture. You know why? Because the picture has no restrictions. Zero. The picture represents endless possibilities. Endless. So as the imagination gets exercised, and it begins to expand front and center, then it starts sending out limitless avenues and possibilities. Most of them probably never been front and center, buried in many of us. But when that comes front and center, and all of the through the heart mind that are generated, these thoughts that you generate, that you control, it'll be endless. This is why we know that with the CC, our number one priority project is to get it across the planet. And we know that through imagination, that technology will expand. It'll advance more and more and more and more. Different avenues, different applications. That only will happen through picture training, picture direction. It won't happen the conventional way. It'll just stay that technology. Won't be advanced, won't be refined. Okay? Because we're looking for different designs as we initiate the CC and we open source it to different groups. They will take it and they'll advance it and they'll use picture training, picture education. And this, what will ensue, will be massive explosions of ideas that will effortlessly come flowing in. Why don't we do it? Why don't we do this and extend this and intensify this and redirect this? Then we can do this, 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 and this. And you're just pointing it to different areas of the picture. And what does that do? What is the true secret of this? It generates and moves energy into form. It moves it into form. And when you know that, and it's not some surprise, it's moving the energy into form. Now what does that mean? It means that you've initiated, and this is all strange to a lot of people. It's kind of far out there. But what it means is that the universe backs you up 3,000%. And you don't muddle it because your ego has been checkmated to the extent where it's not going to interfere with the progress of the advancement of the technology and a continual expansion of other technologies off of one technology. Now, it's not necessarily all projects are going to be technologically connected. There's going to be emotional, it's going to be service-oriented, there's going to be healing centers a lot of people have set up. They've got retreats in area, because I'll tell you something, you couldn't have enough of those, because there's not a lot of us, guys. You might want to think there are, but they're not. It's not designed that way. It'd be chaos if there was a whole ton of us receiving this responsibility. So therefore, it's been designed at the handful, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the population of the planet. So we begin to expand, we begin to learn in a whole different direction. See, the Draco system has taught mankind, oh, we'll get this, and, we'll get this, and a little thing here, a little thing there. Redoing electric cars that we had over 100 years ago. The electric cars 100 years ago might have been a lot cruder, not as fancy. But it's just the same, they were electric cars. And so what do we have now? Just a little bit more advanced electric cars. They look prettier and sleeker and more modern. But they still have to be charged, which is archaic. Where does that come from? It comes from using equations and fractions and quantum physics and analysis and everything. And to most people, that stuff is hieroglyphics. And a lot of the people that work in these companies, most of that stuff causes you to chase your tail for months on end to come to a solution to a certain equation. Then there's always gaps, okay? Because the equations don't have, there's no picture. It's numbers. But you create through pictures. How do you think a computer generates a picture? It's got to have the ability of input. It's like you being a computer. You've got to input the data. The data is a picture. It's assimilated much simpler, but much more impactful and diverse. Because then you can see the colors, and you can see the different applications, and then you can look at different angles, and you can actually see it, period. Why do you think that, a lot of these groups have prototypes? So they can actually develop the first one and see it. And then they can look here and do this and test this and test that and test that. I can guarantee you that 100,000% of the time, when you work through pictures, you're going to create exactly what it is your intentions are. There's no push against you. The only push is the ego, and that's why we're constantly talking about the ego and keep the ego in check. It takes effort. We've been teaching people that now for many years, and most recently the last over 3 years. So from every avenue possible, subliminal, direct, pictorial, you can literally look at our charts on our website and you start getting an idea, formulation. That's why we did the charts in picture form. And that's why a lot of work went in those charts. So you begin to realize that this is a whole different structure that we're forming. It isn't the conventional. It works okay, but not that great. And so we encourage and advance with this structure, this compilation of launching our projects. Another thing that happens, remember that when you are overwhelmed, it is because you are not operating from the heart-mind on your project. When you're overwhelmed, where is that overwhelming coming from? Egoic energy, dictating to the heart-mind. You then are the slave at that point. You're not the master. When you're the master, the ego steps aside. There's no confrontation or conflict. The ego steps aside. And the mind is subservient to you through the heart-mind. Now, some people say, it's a bunch of poppycock, I'm just going to do what I'm doing, and that's it. No, that's fine. But you'll make things a lot more difficult for yourselves. But that's choice. This is how things are structuring on this planet. planet now. These are how energies are moving into form. It's not like it was. It's never going to be like it was again. And you're going to start seeing that, especially those of you who are embracing your projects, and you've been carrying them, some of you for years, some of you the last few years, some of you. And where did the projects, where did they all start? Where did your projects, where were the seeds of your projects? Where? Imagination. That's where every single thing comes from. Imagination. Okay? So you picture yourself that you're aware of your imagination, you have it front and center, and you know there are no limits. The only limits are what you put on it through the egoic energy. That's it, ego mind. That's the limits. Those are the limits. Oh, that can't be done. Oh, I won't be able to do that. Guys, we won't be able to do this. That's not possible. That's all egoic energy. Okay? And the intent here is teaching people in a whole different vernacular. It's a whole different ball game. Nothing like it was. Everything like it is. So when you look at these different projects that you're dearly connected to, that your heart mind is, and you have made a major commitment to carrying out the project. Heck, it just could be a food center in your community. Buying land that that you can redo the soil and purify the soil so it's real dark and rich and nutrients, and then grow foods, and you have a mom and pop store within your community, not these big, huge super centers, but like it was, but in the now. And then with some tweaks here and there, you can teach children. Imagine this. Here's an idea for everybody. You have a food store, right? Not only is it a food store, but those who grow the food are in the store. And those who grow the food are educating those who really don't have much of an education on the food and how to grow it. Now, these aren't classes, okay? They're conversation. And they have like a manual, all in pictures, showing you exactly what to do in pictures. Okay? And children. A lot of inner city children have, where they think fruit and vegetables come from? The grocery store. They actually think that they come from the grocery store. They have no clue that they come from the ground and then to the grocery store. So picture that now in the food store. You can do this with a lot of things. It's an education. What we're doing, guys, is we're educating every single one of us that chooses to be educated. And this is in the beginning steps of an actual civilization of the universe, not an annihilation civilization that we've left. So value life is the highest value in the universes, where they don't value life at all. It's the opposite. And then what we do is that we create. That's what we're good at. We create. And so people that come into the store, they're not bugged. Not people following them around. But it's there for them. You imagine you walk up, you're looking at a certain section of the food store, and you have 3-4 people just kind of hanging out in there, and they're the ones that grew it. You remember the old fruit stands and vegetable stands years ago? They're still, once in a while you'll run across one. But, back in the 50s, 60s, they were prevalent in America. You'd be driving along, doing a cross-country trip, and you'd always come across vegetable stand, fruit stand, or signs saying strawberries, that type of thing. And it was a farmer who grew them. And you just go in. People say, well, isn't that like a farmer's market? Not really. This is different. because when you walk into the food store, what do you usually expect in this country alone? You walk in a food store, it's a super center with everything under the sun, and most of it not grown here. Isn't that amazing? You ever notice that? That most of the food sources are not grown here, not manufactured here, not made here. And then we shift that. Now imagine this. You got the food store, and then you have the manual labor people that actually grew the food. And then you go over to another section, and it's a replication section. So you can replicate anything you want, food source. And you learn how to do that. Now think about that, okay? So you go to the organic from roots of this country of farming in one food source area. Then you go to another one, which is replication. Kids learn about it. They get intrigued about it. You know, parents are intrigued about it. You see, you can have a comparison. This is with everything. Whatever your project's going to be that you're going to carry out, you're looking at it from this perspective and standpoint of saying, how can we advance this? How can we cover more than one area of understanding? How can we educate those that will participate in whatever the project is going to create? How can we educate them? Because, see, this is also in this God planet, this paradise that we've entered. It's about creating unlimited forms. Unlimited. So, imagine we bring in replicators, and then people start getting access to replicators, and we've got such a chamber and a CC1s, and then we've got time jumps, time accelerators, and we've got point-to-point transfers, and then we've got flight technology, travel technology. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And you can picture yourself like you set up a technology in a town. Yeah, it wouldn't be feasible in a small town, but you know, say a city. A new city, not the ones now, a new city. So the infrastructure was put into place right away. And you say you wanted to go 10 blocks over, and you wanted to look at a little shop or something, and instead of having to take a cab, you walk into in a facility. This looks like an open-air phone booth, and you've got a holographic on the panel, and it's clear, and you just put it in, put the information on where you want to be, and it's point-to-point transfer. So you're there, and seconds later, you're where you want to be. And that's traveling around the city. Isn't that interesting? Okay? Now, why would you want to be in a city? And these are all ideas, guys, because they're coming. They're coming. And sooner than you think. So the cities, as projects, all of these are projects. All these are applications. Because we have a lot of work to do. But you can imagine, I don't need to drive into the city. Because you won't have a vehicle that has tires or wheels. Is why when I need to drive in the city, I can just, blip in and blip out. And everything is going to be super advanced, and we won't have to wait 200 years to advance. Okay? The purpose of these projects, whether you know it or not, or eventually we teach those that use whatever the facility services, applications, technologies that we put out on our projects, so that they become educated, so that they're aware, and they don't have any ignorance. They have knowledge. And imagine that. Imagine how that planet, this 5-density planet, will evolve. Because what's going to happen if we're going to leave the planet? There will never be a population issue on this planet at all. At all. At all. And what you're looking project is that you have a business proposal. You lay out the business proposal, which is a project proposal, business proposal. You've got charts and graphs. You've got, pretty colored charts and graphs and stuff. And then you have basically your dissertation description, worded description. You have cost factors of research and development. You have cost factors of personnel. You have cost factors of building and maintenance, and cost factors of transportation, distribution. You've got all these different cost factors that you break down, and you give a guesstimate in the boxes like an Excel spreadsheet, and then you literally list what your estimate is of that project and its total cost, including a buffering amount for the unknowns. Just what you do. You put it all together, put it on paper, and you title it. This is my Sleepy Hollow project where people can come. It's 200 acres. It's got cabins. They can sit and decompress and relax and do nothing, whatever they choose to do. Say, each cabin has a replicator for any kind of food, cuisine, or anything. They also have restaurants, so if you just want to do conventional and sit and be served, that's fine too. So, you see what I mean? All of these things, they're endless. It's endless. So people move into the understanding of imagination. Imagine. You remember the John Lennon song, Imagine All the People. He used imagine all through that song. It's our imaginations that's the power, guys. It's not the corrupted Draco book learning, Yale and Princeton and Harvard, Columbia, and all these Draco colleges and structures. It isn't. That's all being melted away. All of it is. And so you're looking at a total different avenue. And this breath that is being put out gives you the option and opportunity to take that new direction. As you heard me talk about for a while, there's a bridge. There's a roaring river under the bridge. Okay? Now, you can walk across that bridge, but you don't know what's in that land of unknown. You have no clue. You don't even have a smidgen of a clue. So what happens is that you turn around and you say, I'm not going to cross that bridge. I'm just going to stick just with conventional application. And that's fine. It's just a decision. How are we going to ever accelerate our advancement as a species, as civilization, when we are used to working in a conflicted shoebox and are always afraid to leave it, even though we have an inclination that it's probably the best direction for us to take? And this is about letting go of all your preconceived notions and all your suppositions and just free-flowing through the imagination and having fun. So that's when you start to have fun with your project, whatever it may be. It's free-flowing. You don't have any expectations, even when you do your proposal. You say to yourself, I'm looking at this, I'm going to have fun with it. What are the inspirations? Inspirations are to help people. Is to help fellow mankind. That's what this inspiration is. That's why all of us are committed and dedicated to these projects, these missions. And I'm sure a lot of you realize there is a whole lot of effort to be put in, a whole lot of action. Because we have, we've got a period of time to start initiating our projects, getting certain things done, and then we have the land and earth shifts and changes. Then after that, then we got a whole other slate of basically putting in a whole new infrastructure. When you look at a city, some of you, and you look at the city as a picture, and then you start doing research and you start finding out the truth of how dilapidated and destructured the city's, processes are. It's wastewater treatment facilities, it's power distribution facilities, water, electricity, all of it. It's a whole different ballgame because they're so antiquated. When was the last time you saw in this country alone that any city made a major announcement, any major city, that they totally revamped and from scratch put in a whole brand new system, a new power distribution with new technologies, none of the old stuff, totally self-sufficient, free? Think about that. This is another thing that you are going to start experiencing. Why do you think we're going to open source our CCs? Why do you think we're not charging anybody for them? We'll figure it out. That's the old world. It's easy to get trapped again in that old world, that old mentality. Money, gain, profit, investment. And look what it's done to the planet and the civilization. Money, gain, profit, investment, greed, manipulation, dishonesty. It goes on and on and on. Because the responsibility of the population is to keep the energy of money in flow and not hoard it. Unfortunately, it went the other way on this planet. Hoarding. I'm better than them because I got billions and I'm elite. Which is absurd. Absolutely absurd. So the new world, this paradise, this God planet, you open source thing because your people become inspired. Why? There's so much wealth, there's no need to invest. There's no need to hoard. The money is always flowing, creating, building, constructing, advancing. And so those that their hearts are committed, they get open source unit, they begin to expand on it. They too use pictures to guide them, to cause their imaginations to always be front and center, to have their imaginations uplifted on any project, no matter how small or how big. Now, I guarantee you guys, if you looked at a picture, let's just put it this way. You're watching the sunset, okay? And you're viewing it. And you have a rush of emotion on how beautiful it is. And then you read a bunch of words. Yeah, sometimes the words will describe it, but it's nothing like seeing it. It's nothing like experiencing it in real time. Is it? It really isn't. So the inspiration are the pictures. So you might want to think about that with your projects. Through the heart-mind, with the egoic energies, basically are the slave through the heart-mind. And so is the mind. So you're the master. So you tell the mind what you want to create. See? Because most of us have minds that are just flailing around uncontrollably, tapping with the ego and the egoic energies, and then the next thing you know, we're slaves to ourselves, to the egoic energies. And, with this application and this direction, it's been proven with other civilizations for billions of years. It works in harmony. There's no conflict, there's no war, there's no hatred and anger, deceit and deception. It's all washed away. There's no need for it. You've got the civilization, mostly immortal. You've got no diseases. You've got no financial situations. There's no banks. Well, there's holding facilities in the time being. Okay? So and then you get to a point, and you're continually releasing different projects and applications because the imagination says, hey, what about doing this? And you go, hey, you know something? That's a good idea. That's a great imagination. And the wider our imaginations, the more we'll accelerate, and the more we'll move in higher frequencies and densities. entire civilization's happy. The entire civilization is happy. And they all go within. That'll take some time. But where does it come from? Imagination. Where does anything come from? Imagination. What stops our forward progression as a species and civilization? Ego. Egoic energies. Being unaware that we can simply master it all. And it's endless. You know, and people that say, well, you know, I'd like a project, but I don't know how to, I'm just going to pick one out of a group, pick a project out of a group. That's fine, too. Because there's so many of them that it's endless. And, you know, then you have people that say, well, I'm just going to donate. That's good, too. Everybody doing different things. All working together for the best possible for all of us. So, you know, and now, okay, there's some other things that we'll shift into. When you move into a different density existence, and all of the old third densities it's just old. It's decrepit energy. It's old. And so you move it away. It's gone. So you have this open room. So you go in and you do your transaction, and you have your paper, your currency, your bonds, and you do this, and then you look and you go, well, I have 100 trillion in my account. Now, not many people know what that is, what 100 trillion is. It's, they don't know. And so then you sit there and say, okay, so I've got this project. This project's about 80 billion, whatever it may be. And then I don't really, and I've got this, and I've got some bills and stuff. But you have all of this wealth. See, if you stay away from expectations and attachments, and you work from the heart-mind, then you won't have the issues, because emotion plays heavy duty on that. Now, you may not think so, okay? You may not. Oh, no big deal, okay? Well, I have 500 trillion or, a centillion or whatever it is. That's the ego talking. That's egoic energy. Oh, yeah, I've got this, I've got, I've had people say, I've got 1,100 T's. So what are you going to do with it? Right? Why are you telling me that? I don't, it's not, you're trying to impress me because you've got that much paper? It's crazy. It's ego. It's egoic energy. There's a lot of it flying around out there, too. Now, what happens to someone like that goes in and does their transaction? All right? What's going to happen? Is their heart front and center, or is their ego? You'll know. You'll know when the ego is taking front and center when you go through your transaction. You'll feel the frequencies. There's no way you can avoid them. And it'll be up to you on how you manage them. Right? Well, it's easy to get in. It's easy to get into the egoic energy, period. Now, the direction of non-egoic energy. I have all this wealth, and my job is to see how I can distribute it throughout the planet and assist my brothers and sisters in different ways and avenues to make them wealthy. That's what we're all doing. Do you honestly think that your 500 T bonds or 5 quad of this or that, or a pallet of this, or a truckload of that, has any meaning at all? It's superfluous. It's the understanding is that means that you have that much more responsibility of determining how you're going to circulate that amongst the planet and the civilization. responsibly and honestly. That's the biggest thing. And I know, people go, well, you can't prepare for that. You just have to experience it. Yes, you can prepare with it. You can literally understand what the ego energies are about. You can also understand what the heart-mind energies are about, and the mind. And you can differentiate between them and understand where you choose to operate from. Now, we all know, we've all had experiences, either interacted or watched others be totally absorbed in egoic energy. Arrogant, disrespectful egos rampant on the planet for many generations, disrespecting people because, I've got bazillions and they're poor. You see how that happens? Now, that's why I tell people, no matter what the wealth amount that you receive, just look at the first two numbers. That's it. Look at the first two numbers. All right? It'll keep you balanced. Because if you're going to try and figure out what 1,000 trillion is, you're not going to be able to. And you'll just become frustrated. And egoic energies will come flooding in. All right? People, I've got conversations, people say, well, I've got all this debt and everything. Okay, well, let's see. What is that going to take you? Maybe a day on, writing checks or doing transfers. I mean, it's all gone permanently. It's all gone. It's all removed. Okay? So, but that took you about 24 hours, maybe. Now what are you going to do? And that doesn't even have a scratch on the surface. Well, I'm going to go to a wealth manager. Why? Why? Okay? What you want to learn is you want to learn how to distribute and circulate the motion and the power and the force of the money to do good things. So, why would you go to a wealth manager? Okay, so some people say, well, I only have, a few dinar and dong, and, so I don't have much. I only have maybe 10, 20, 30, 40 million. Okay, cool. So what? Well, I want it to grow. Well, you know what? That's the old world, because if you're going to end up being wealthy, it doesn't matter how much you have. Those who ended up hoarding a bunch of currencies because their egos got carried away, and they felt insecure that a 100T bond wasn't going to be enough. That's absolutely asinine. Okay? But the egoic energies took over, and they kept buying more and 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 more, and they kept buying more. And the egoic energies, that's not enough. It's not enough. Got to buy more. Got to buy more. Then they kept collecting it. Then they had shoebox full. And then a trunk full, and it just goes on and on and on. And that's the old energy, the old frequencies. New frequencies are this. Okay, I'm deeply grateful that I have this opportunity to help the civilization expand and flourish. Now, I'm going to bring my launch team together and work on it one step at a time. One step at a time. Egoic energies will try to push you. They'll try to spite you. They'll try to do everything they can to hurry you, to push you, where you become conflicted with yourself, angry with other people. We aren't getting this done. We aren't getting that done. What's going on over here? We got to get this done. We got this. We got deadline. Okay? There isn't any deadline. Because if you release and surrender all the crap that the egoic energies try to employ on you, then you just go with the flow. Downstream thinking is what we call it. And it works out. You've got this entire universe at your beck and call, and that's a reality. That's not hooey. That's a reality. And this is in the new dimension, new density, higher frequencies, much more fluid movement. Not worrying about money. Not worrying about if you're going to have enough of this or enough of this or enough of that. It's all gone. Worrying about aging or getting diseases. That's all gone. So it's being eliminated so you can concentrate and focus on what? Distribution of wealth across the planet. The largest transfer of wealth in the history of the planet. From the corrupted parasitical governments to the people. You are the stewards of the people. carrying paper or not. You're still the stewards of assisting the people, your brothers and sisters, those who are asleep, those who are just starting to clear their eyes, those who are somewhat awake, those who are very awake. We're all together. And so each of us is performing a different direction to assist the rest of us. And that's what this is about. So as you begin to assist, you begin to realize that, no, wait a minute. Okay, so I can do this, but I'm going to go over here and talk with Benny because Benny's got a great idea, and it's going to help me with my project. Now, I don't know Benny from Adam. I just met him. And now Benny, he made some comments and stuff about his project, and I started picking up from Benny that I can incorporate some of that with my project. And Benny says, absolutely. So this is not like, hiding from each other, and like the 4 civilizations on Mars did millions of years ago and ended up annihilating each other because they were afraid someone was going to steal their secrets. It's we don't care to repeat that, okay? So you now are free flowing. You have your imagination. Your imagination sits front and center. It says, okay, Barry, you have this project, so let's expand the imagination. Guys, when we were kids, we had no limits on our imagination. We didn't. None of us did. We really didn't. We invented things. We created things. We created friends that we could play and have fun with. See? And you know what? You remember that those friends that you created were real to you. And that's all that matters. That's it right there. That's all that matters. And you would create things, and you would imagine, and they would become real to you. But, in that old dank existence, it was drummed out of us, and it was buried deep within us. And, I'm an adult, and I don't have time to have fun and enjoy and laugh. And all I can do is I got to take life seriously because this life's very serious. And that's all crap, too. Because this whole new avenue it's about having fun. It's about expanding your horizons. It's about tapping that imagination every split second. It's about thinking of new ways, new ideas, new directions, new applications. And some you say, well, you know what? I'm gonna go over here to these guys and gals, and I'm going to share with them that I came up with this imagination, this idea through my imagination, and I think we could put it together, and we can put some pictures together, and we can start formulating it. And guess what? That sounds like a great idea. Eventually it'll spread. People will educate each other in pictures. That's what will happen. And, if you look at some of the previous civilizations, Egypt, most of their stuff was done in pictures, told stories. Okay? We didn't understand them at first because we were trained on numbers. They were trained in pictures. Okay? Of course, some of the scientists would say, archaeologists say, those are hieroglyphics. We have to decipher them. They're pictures. Doesn't take you long to figure out when you look at a picture what's going on with the picture, does it? And each of us see different things in the picture. That's what makes it unique. Because not everybody will see the same thing in that picture. They'll see other things. And then you imagine a group of people looking at the picture, and you've got a project, and the picture's representing your project, and then they start coming up with other additions and ideas that you never thought about. So collectively, your project gains power. It gains expansion. It grows other directions. And then that project becomes more than one, more than two, more than three. And it's all about going with the flow and literally saying, universe, this is what I want right now. Boom. And leave it alone. And the more that people can practice that, the more they'll come into realizations that, hey, boom. Hey, Frank, Alice, it's done. Project's done. It's completed. Our unit is completed. Our prototype's ready to go. Okay? Wow, where did the time go? It went really fast, didn't it? Yeah. Well, we wanted to get this done in 3 months. We got it done. Yeah. And see the word. Well, I was expecting it to take a lot longer. The word "expected" doesn't come in. So it's a total approval of what? That you're having fun? Is it okay that I have fun? Yeah. Do you have to be serious? That's what's so silly. Is you have fun, you're not serious when you have fun, right? Well, you got to be focused. But you could be focused on joy. And so when you put the pictures together, they guide you on the project path. And they make things a lot smoother and ease in transition from point A to B to C to D to E. Now it's a choosing, and it's an awareness, and not everybody will be able to apply it. Not at first, but eventually they will, because they'll find. There's an example of looking at other project groups and how they've done and what they're doing, and they'll say, something, you guys got it going on, and I want to be part of that. You got it going on, I want to be part of it. So, you think through the heart-mind. You manage the ego mind and the mind. Through the heart-mind, you're the master. You're not the slave. This is important when you launch your project. It's also important when you first receive your wealth. You say, it's important. Well, we've all seen things happen in the third density, the 3D world, where people come into a bunch of money and then it just messes them up. Not all, but the majority. Okay? Because, imagine, what would you do with even $1 trillion? What would you do? $1,000 billion. What would you do with it? Do you even know what the power of $1 billion is? 1,000 million? It's crazy. And yet I have people in conversations saying that, they just have exorbitant amounts of currency. What do they tab it out there? What do the gurus tab it? Whales. The whales. What is that? Egoic energy. Why do you need to announce the whales? We're taking care of the whales now. Okay? What does that do to everybody else? It makes and it's the egoic energy, and people say, well, what am I, chopped liver? See, then the egos get in there, and then you have issues that go on. We are not going to build a small group of elites to replace the ones that are being melted away. We aren't going to do that. We're not going to have another group of elites that will just step in and end up becoming corrupted, just like the other ones did. And then we've got to repeat, again. And that's not going to happen. And that's why we spend so much time sharing with people of this. It's, you got two directions that you can choose to take, the old one or the new one. And it's going to be up to each and every one of us on which one we choose. This works a little different, a lot different, this system. And the way it works is that, and you could research this, it doesn't take a lot, is that the algorithms of the quantum system, it's not specific to financial, but the quantum system is that it reads you. And it's able to differentiate between good and bad. So if you have an intent to deceive wealth, and of course you're selling projects to get the wealth because you want, I hear people all the time say, well, I want the sovereign rates. Well, what are the sovereign rates? Is 100 trillion isn't enough? 100 billion isn't enough? Why do you need sovereign rates? And another thing that's interesting is that, well, I'm going to be doing thousands of projects. No, you're not. You won't do thousands of projects. You won't be able to do that. And I'll give you an example. All projects that have ever been started, I'll give you this. All right, this is the old world. All projects that have ever been started, how many were absolutely finished and engaged? I mean, as far as use, whatever the project may be. How many? And then how many of the people benefited from the projects that were initiated and completed? So I'm talking about the people that initiate the projects and start doing them and carrying them out. Okay? On a percentage basis, 1 out of 100 people will finish a project. 1 out of 100 people. That's 1%. Why is that? Why is that? I bet you a lot of you didn't know that. Why is that? Because people have so many expectations. They don't listen to the heart mind. They listen to the egoic energy, the mind and the ego. And they get all messed up. And misappropriation of funds, misdirection of this. And, well, I'll do that tomorrow. And, I'll talk with Jerry in the morning, and I'll do this and that. And they never end up being done. Other people just say, this is too much, I can't do it, so I'm just not going to do it. Once I got into it, it was just I had people tell me this. Once I got into it and I started looking at everything, I had great business proposal, I had everything structured, everything laid out. I had all my expectations, everything planned and organized. I spent all this time on it. And then when they started really getting into the meat of it and execution, they said, it's too much. Can't do it. And that's what happens. So they ignore it. They can't do it. And that's what happens, see? So the intent's there, but the follow-through isn't. It's really great. It's grandeur. It's grandeur when we look and we shoot into the future and we're embraced and the seduction, and I'm going to have all this money and I can do anything I want. And then as that starts to seep in, the project's there, and then the project begins to kind of make second fiddle. Because the person says, well, I think I'm going to, take a while. I'm going to build, I'm going to get a boat, and I'm going to buy a few homes and big spreads and land, and I'm going to get a few airplanes and some collectible cars and this and that, and that takes time. And then you start getting seduced into that, and the project takes third fiddle and fourth fiddle. It slips away. And then someone comes along and says, weren't you going to, you had a great project you were going to do. Oh, yeah, but, I got involved in all these other things, and I just kind of put it on the shelf. Well, that's a shame, because that would have really helped a lot of people. I've had these conversations. I've had them for 40 years, 45 years. I've had these conversations with people. And that's, you come to the conclusion that 1% of the people carrying projects will carry them out. And that's why we're talking about this now, see? Because there won't be any excuses. None. You'll have a choice. You'll make the choice. You either stay to your commitment, and it doesn't mean that that you're going to live a pauper's life. That's quite the contrary. Be able to do anything you want, come and go, and have a great time and experience all kinds of wonderful technologies. But your main focus is to figure out a way through your imagination to distribute wealth across the planet. Okay? And it's got to be done through gradualization. Because you guys know that the civilization has a delicate condition, all right? We've witnessed it, fighting over toilet paper and paper towel. Like, crazed people, worried that they're not going to have it, insecure because of a authoritative, external authority-run civilization, bicameral. So, you know how that works. You all do. You're all understanding the mask and the cold and all these things going on. And what the real underlying hand of darkness is about. And so you look into you with the good and the God that you are, and the good and the God and the love that you are, along with your imagination and your heart-mind, you'll be able to create unlimited shifts that will help and assist the civilization of this planet. And it doesn't have to be a big, huge project. See, that's egoic energy. I got a project, it's got to be 150 trillion. Well, that's great. Well, how are you going to facilitate that? That's egoic energy. That's all it is. And people get swept up in it. We've all been swept up in it. None of us are exempt from it through this life. But it's important to be consciously aware, and there's another one. Many on this planet are consciously aware right now. Not a lot. Not a lot. That's why I keep saying we need every single awake one we can get. Literally. And, I've had people say, we're going to hire 3 million people in the next year. Okay. That's wonderful. How are you going to facilitate that? You know how long it takes a company to build to 10,000 employees? And in a year, you're going to have 3 million. It's just not feasible. That's just silly. But that's egoic energy, and people sound very, committed to doing that. That's what they're going to do. That's great. Well, let's see when they start figuring out what it's going to how you're going to facilitate that, and let's see what the payroll alone will be, and the facilities that you have to build and house. All the things that go just with 3 million people before you get going with anything else. So, practicality through the heart-mind. I'm going to start with a launch team. Doesn't matter how big your project is, okay? You got to start with a launch team. That's the first piece of the puzzle. You're assembling this puzzle through your heart-mind until you complete the whole picture. And then it's go time. So you put all the puzzle pieces in place. Like you're sitting at a table in a cabin up in the mountains or the woods, and it's raining, and you got the fireplace going, and you've got a puzzle, and you're putting the pieces together. And you look at the picture on the box, and you keep going, okay, and then eventually you finish it, and you're very satisfied, and you look at the whole picture, okay? And that's what you're doing with the projects. You have the launch team. Everybody works together, all right? That's the point. You don't have mavericks running off into a corner and, hugging their egoic energies and their ego mind and trying to do something on their own. It doesn't mean that they don't. It's like, hey, Bill, go see what you can come up with on this aspect of the AI. Go for it. Go do it. Start formulating the pictures. Start writing the pictures out. Start drawing them. Do it on the computer, however you want to do it. But figure it out. Have some fun. Stand. Work on the energy distribution system. See what you can do to refine it. Draw the pictures. Put them out there. Boom. Okay? You ever notice when you assemble something and the pictures are correct, how easy it is? Because you look at the pictures, right? A lot of us have assembled things because it was pictures. It wasn't calculations. It wasn't numbers. You had pictures. And then you had the pictures represent the different This thing was a bear to put together because the instructions sucked. Okay? That's why. Our brains do not operate well, but they do with pictures. Okay? And you can have advanced pictures. That's why I keep, it seems like I keep pushing the pictures, because that's the future of this civilization, the way they'll learn. Now, other material, people say, well, what if people want to learn to be this or to be that, or have this skill or that skill? Well, then they go to a learning center and download it. That's it. You won't go to a so-called quote-unquote college or university to learn things. You have these huge AI databases, and all the AIs are controlled so they can never become fully aware. And that's what a lot of civilizations have forgotten to do in their zest and zeal of creation. So, and then guess what, guys? You're the master. You know these things. You've learned them. So you begin to develop, you begin to process, and it works. And you have fun. And then the excitement, enthusiasm from the heart-mind, which is in you, the bliss and the joy. You ever been doing something? Have you ever worked at something in your life where you say, yeah, I'm going to do that. And, maybe you put it off. And then you finally say, no, I'm going to do that. And you start doing it, and you start saying, I really like doing this. Why did I wait so long? And then you start assembling, putting together and everything. And then when you're all done with whatever it is, you get this kind of a rush. It's a bliss because it comes from within you. It's just always there. It's not what you were doing, okay? It's that you let go and you literally surrendered the bliss within, and the bliss within came outside. So you were just ecstatic on what you were doing and what you were creating, and it was wonderful, and it was a high, a natural high. That's bliss. And so to assist the civilization moving into that direction is paramount. So with your projects, you have to have funds, right? That's number one. You got to figure out some way to have funds. So those that will do transactions, they're carrying currencies, bonds, they'll have the funds. And what about those that don't have the funds but have wonderful projects? Well, then you meet with them, because you will, and you'll say, tell me about your project. How much do you think you're going to need? What's your initial startup cost? What's your long-term cost? And you sit there and say, well, this is what we're doing, is everything. Man, that's just something else. I talked with a guy a long time ago, and I've talked with a lot of inventors, a lot of people have projects, a lot of engineers, and, shade tree engineers, and shade tree scientists, and, guys in their basements and stuff that have invented stuff that's just absolutely phenomenal. And one guy, him and his engineering buddy, and they developed a grow garden. It's phenomenal. And the grow garden you could put on your patio, your balcony, and you could grow a full year's worth of food. I kid you not. And they put this together, and it exists today, but they've had corrupted businesses try to buy them out, and they've said no, because they want it to benefit the people. Okay? But it really hasn't gotten anywhere. Now imagine this, a wind generator. It's about, the blades are about a foot, roughly, maybe 16, 18, and it sits on a pole. And a 1 mile an hour wind, it will produce 3,000 kilowatts a minute. Think about that. A 1 mile an hour wind, and you could put this up yourselves. You go out, have the hubby or boyfriend or yourself, You know, a lot of gals that are very creative and mechanical and electrical, and you just put it up and plug it in. Plug it into the battery center to start off with. And it'll generate 3,000 kilowatts per minute from 1 mile an hour wind. So guess what? You put it anywhere on the planet. 1 mile an hour wind. That isn't even a breeze. So there's, you know, and and then the inventors will say, I'm not going to do anything with it. Why not? I just don't want to. You do it. You take it. You do it. I wouldn't know where to begin, and there's people like that because they create, and then they want someone else to take it and make it a reality. So you guys will run into those guys. You will. I guarantee you. You could just be in just idle conversation with somebody, and then the universe will bring these people around, and then they'll start having conversation with you and say, you're a project team leader, you're a founder project, you're a project founder, and you're implementing certain projects for the civilization of the planet, for mankind. And then they start talking with you. What does this involve, guys? Right? It's networking. That's what it is. Now, if you don't have any skills in networking and you don't like talking with people, you're going to miss a lot of windows of meeting some really wonderful people. So again, it's all synergistic, all connects, all of it. You have funds. You do transactions. You're set for 10,000 lifetimes. You start distribution of wealth. Some of you have projects. Others are donating. Others are carrying others' projects so that they can, supplement the cost of those projects through their transactions at the centers. So there's all kinds of ways, all kinds of avenues. Now, people like in their 80s and 90s that have these projects, and in the late 70s, mid-70s, so on and so forth, that have been at it for a long time. So, reatomize the body. You're a young man or a young woman, you can go for broke. Just have a ball and just carry out the projects. You have the bucks. You'll have what you need. You'll have firm, strong body, healthy. You'll be able to go like lightning. So understand something, that this, if you think that, the structure you're used to is going to stay in place, it isn't. It just isn't. A lot of people will have, great wealth. They'll go, why would I need to invest it? There's just so much of it. There's no way you'll ever run out. You say you have $1 trillion project. Trillion, right? Huge amount of money. Huge. And so it's $1 trillion. Now, here's something to think about through the heart mind. How am I going to administer $1 trillion? How am I going to do that? When Edward Jones and all of their clients, they're barely at $1 trillion in asset management. And you, little you, right, have $1 trillion. Now, we're not talking about investing, having a wealth manager direct your money and invest it, put it here and put it there. You have all you need. Why would you need anybody to tell you where to put it? See? So this is the beginning of everything in a new life, a new existence. So you say, well, I need to know how to manage it, and I'm not sure how to do that. Well, then you go and you talk to a couple of people that have never managed that much either. It's true, it's like you go there and you go, well, I want to talk with you. I'm holding a sizable sum in an account, and I've got projects that I'm going to be launching, and I've got to figure out how to manage it. And they say, well, how much are you, what are you talking about? Oh, $1 billion? Oh, talking? A trillion. They'll go, we've never managed a trillion. I've never managed a trillion. I'm a senior EVP with the bank. I've never managed a trillion. So see, what it takes here is that you're moving your heart-mind into reality. Your supreme reality, we all are. So you're moving your heart-mind into the understanding that it's already here. You see? So you're thinking through the heart-mind. You master the mind and the ego. So this is where you're operating. You're going, I have nothing to worry about. I will begin my project, and I will set up accounts to distribute the funds accordingly. Period. Now, obviously, the old system says, well, don't carry any more than $500 million per account. Okay? Don't carry more than that in that account. You know how many accounts you'd have to distribute $1 trillion into those accounts at 500 M increments. Figure it out. It's a ton of accounts, a huge amount of accounts, all holding 500 million max. So, what do? That's why I say when you guys go to your transaction and you get home and you sit there and you go, oh, okay, and you let it sink in. And you go, all right, well, realize something, that only look at the first two numbers, or three, and leave it at that. Because guess what? If you start going off into the zeros, you'll get lost. And you won't even, who cares anyway, really? Because you have all you're going to need for thousands of lifetimes anyway, for yourself and your family and whoever else. And then you've got your projects. Now, it's very easy that when the dust settles, it's going to be helter-skelter. Everybody, boom, 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 boom. And it'll be out of the way done. And everybody will get access. It's carrying paper. No one is going to be left behind. No one's going, I don't have time, and am I going to be left because of this so fast, everything? No. It'll be done finitely. And so then you sit back and you say, okay, well, you got your project portfolio, right? You got your project book. You've got, however you've structured it, right? And you sit back in your chair or you're on the couch and whatever, and you celebrate a little bit and say, wow, now I have all this money in my stewardship. What's the first thing I'm going to do? What's the first thing you're going to do? What would most be the first thing that most of us do? Well, we look at where we're at financially, okay, before this gift, and we look at where, financially, and we go, well, I need to clear this up. I need to get my affairs in order, get all this debt and everything cleared up. Now, here's something interesting, though. You're not interested in drawing attention. A lot of people be in a hurry, and then, they'll just get rid of debt, whatever the debt load is they have. Now, they've never been able to pay off their debt before, okay? And what makes people think that all of a sudden they've got all this money and they're able to pay off their debt? No, you don't pay it off. Just make some double, triple payments. That's it, to start with. That's all. And, it depends, I'm $3 million in debt, so just make some payments. Period. That's all. You don't need to zero them all out. And then another thing, understand that when and this is all connected to how long you're going to be kept away from launching your project. This is all the stuff that comes in that we don't think about, say. It all comes in. It floods in. And it catches us by surprise because we have this wave of emotion come over us. And then a lot of us don't realize is that you really can buy anything you want, whenever you want, how often you want, period, without ever thinking twice about it. And think about, now understand that. Most Americans, they got to belabor the issue if it's a big ticket item. They got to hem and haw it. Should I? Shouldn't I? I really can't afford it. It's going to yank up my this, that. It's going to make it tight. How we do, we just go over and over. It could be a $300 item. It could be a $50,000 item. Who knows? And that's what we do. And so meantime, guys, there's the project. All right? And I'm just kind of painting this scenario. Generic. All right? So at first, you get situated with your wealth. Because you will. You'll have to get situated. You're not going to be able to come out right out of the chute right away. You've got to put things in place and, okay, well, do I want to buy this $100,000 vehicle and park it in my drive when I've got a $25,000 used vehicle out there? You see? And the neighbors, we're talking about exposure here. So, and this is what I've recommended to people, all right? You got a project, right? Well, doesn't mean that you can't go somewhere and purchase something, a property or something. That'll be your domicile. That's where you'll kind of hang out at. But what about the place that you were living in for 10 years? It's no big deal, right? No one needs to know that you have a safe harbor place other than that one. And another thing, none of you want to own anything. You don't want to own a thing. You want to control everything, but you don't want to own it. Okay? And that's a real shift of consciousness for people that have been educated the opposite, Have this, own this, I own that, I own this. Oh, yeah, I bought this for $80,000. I bought this, I have this and that. And yeah, this house ran me $14 million. Yeah, I got this and that. But you know something? You ever notice how light you feel when you don't own it, but you use it? Okay? You don't own it, you use it. You imagine in conversation, right? Because you'll have these, you will have these conversations with people. Because people will get curious, which is a good thing. And they'll start asking you. You might be at some place and you're entertaining, and they go, because people are curious, we're all curious. Wow, this spread must have set you back quite a bit. What do you mean? Well, don't you own all this? Nah, don't own it. I use it, I don't own it. Oh, really? Yeah. The trust owns it. Oh, really? Yeah. Wow. So that sets them up. Really does. They what are they going to ask them to say? So everything, you'll get this way if you aren't now. You will say, because we're in a transitional period of this wealth transfer, okay? It's going to take a bit to adjust and shift into high gear. And so the remnants of the third density, as it falls away completely, you then embrace the fifth density, which is a whole different ballgame. So you'll learn this, but isn't it nice to have a little heads up, heads up ahead of time, where you go, okay, so when I'm in conversation with people, I'll be in a position where they'll ask me questions about ownership, and I'll tell them I don't own anything. And at first, if they're really curious, they'll go, well, then, who does own this? Everything you see here is owned by a trust. The vehicle I drive, the plane I fly, everything's owned by a trust. I'm not talking about the trusts that are in the old Draco system. I'm talking about the trust outside of those. I'm talking about trusts that are outside of that system. Some appear to be outside of it, have is in a trust. Every plane is in a trust. Every vehicle is in a trust. Everything. It's all in trust. Thousands of trusts. Okay. You could, like, let's take it this way. Say you buy you're going to go and you're going to buy a vehicle. Okay, new vehicle, and you really, there's a lot to learn, guys. There's a lot to learn. A lot. But it's fun to learn it. But you sit there and you say, okay, now you're not buying it. You personally are not spending $200,000 on a vehicle. Okay? My name is Bill Johnson. I'm going to write you a check for this vehicle. Nope. You have it's a one-page trust, right? You're the trustee. The trust buys the vehicle. Right? Now, the trust doesn't need a bank account because you have another entity that's unincorporated and it sits as the umbrella of all the trusts. So that entity, that establishment, that organization, it represents the people, and so you protect the people. So the trusts own everything. And so you say, well, okay, so the vehicle is being purchased by this XYZ trust. Yes. Okay. It's a private trust. And so they go, okay, blah, 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 blah. And then they go, this is the example that you'll learn. And then they'll go, okay, so you understand how the old system works. The old system, without your knowledge, they do processing, titles, tags, whatever. And so as soon as that vehicle is purchased, they have something called a manufacturer certificate of origin. Most people don't even know what that is, right? Because what they do is they send the paperwork to the state that the vehicle is being purchased in, and then what happens right there is that the state now owns your vehicle, or the trust vehicle. The state owns it, not you. This is why you have to pay, tag fees every year. This is why you're forced to carry insurance. This is why you have, you maintain the vehicle. And this is why you pay every single year. Okay? And a lot of states in this country are forced, you have to have insurance in order to get the tags. So it's not your vehicle, though. It's not the trust vehicle. It's the state's. Because dealerships sent the state the manufacturer's certificate of origin instead of giving it to you. Right? Now, they have to give it to you, but you aren't knowledgeable to know that. So guess what happens? Now, that was Al that went in and did that, and we got all messed up. Well, Frank comes in, and Frank's educated, and Frank says, by the way, I need the manufacturer's certificate of origin. Right? Now, they have to give it to you. Now, what does that mean? What happens? What happens is that the state doesn't own that vehicle. The trust does, outright. What else happens? Well, you can title it through the trust on your own and not through that system. It changes. Everything's going to change, guys. It already has. It's already been changing. So all these things that were perpetrated on each and every one of us are found out. We know about them now. They got away with it for a long time. So, own nothing, control everything. You do it by trust. Perfectly legitimate, no secrecy, nothing. Right there. That's part of the transitional process that you're going to start experiencing, right? Because you're going to have this wealth, you're going to learn a lot of things, period, because you do have the wealth. You're going to be made privy to a lot of things that you never in a million years thought were ever happening or going on. what it tells you is that there's a lot involved. The money is the absolute easiest part of all of it. And so this is why you don't have expectations or attachments during the process or ever. And eventually you get in the habit of doing that so that the egoic energies really you're directing. See? You finally are in the driver's seat. You're directing. You're saying, okay, ego, step over here and mind, okay? I want you to put this thought in motion so that I can create it into reality. See, in other words, they're not dictating to you anymore. They're not. You're managing them. Once you get acclimated to that, it's not difficult. It's almost like secondhand after a while. And you, literally, there's the biggest thing here, which a lot of us have issues with. Letting go, allowing the universe to provide it all for you. It's simple, but then again, it's not. So you follow those parameters, this structure that you're moving into. You already know you're going to be wealthy. You already are wealthy. Every one of you. It's not like you're waiting for it. It's already taken place. All it is now is that you got to have you have the picture and you have the account, and there it is. All right, but you're already wealthy. And of course, I get the people that keep saying, "Well, I don't have any paper. How am I going to be wealthy?" There's nothing to worry about. You're going to be associated, interacting with other people who have the wealth. What do you think is going to happen with you? Okay? Obliterate poverty in our country to begin with. No poverty, no slums, no shacks, no nothing. Revitalize land in areas that have been just literally abused. And I can spend literally a long time describing things, but when it all boils down to it, what I'm doing is I'm messaging the information to the population of the planet as the best I can, and there's a lot of information. So I do the best I can to get it out to everybody, and they can literally flush it down the toilet, or they can take what they want or use what they want. There's no directive here. It is meant you choose to assimilate or you don't. That's all there is to it. And this is only based on my opinion and from what I know and the knowledge I carry to this planet. And that's what this is. That's how it works. So there will be those that, of course, will embrace the egoic energies and do it their way, my way or the highway. And I wish that they will be successful for the population. Nothing but the highest of the highest high of love and good energy sending their way. Others will say, I'm in the new frequencies, so I'm going to structure and do it this way. And imagine this, guys, where we're all doing. We're going to make everybody wealthy on the planet. That's pretty far out, isn't it? And you know what? There's other planets where everybody's wealthy, and it's not money. They're just wealthy. They have everything they need ever could imagine having. And so then they move off their planet, and they go off to other planets, and then they literally colonize those planets. And why do you think planets are created? What, they're just, sitting out there doing nothing? No. They're created because they're a launching pad for all forms of life. Gases, there's life that are gases, mist, all kinds. It's endless. It's never ending. So this, what we're doing here is you couldn't have a better joy and excitement you could ever imagine, because you are going to assist with making everybody on this planet wealthy. That's the end result, okay? it's not going to be, you know, easy peasy. There's going to be bumps and, you know, some crazies that'll do this and that. Yeah, sure. That's the way it works. No big deal. We've already got that taken care of. So, what we'll do now is we'll just do a little Q&A. See if anybody has any questions, and then... Okay, jokey. 719-3559.
Yes, I would like to know how I can actually work with you into making a manufacturing area to manufacture the celestial chambers. That is one of my projects. I would like to just hand it over to you to build the celestial chambers along with the money that you need to do that. So how would I do that?
Send an email to my assistant, which is all lowercase on one word, life, L-I-F-E, light, L-I-G-H-T, 369